You know what's funny? Most men are terrible at asking for what they really want. Not because they don't have desires, but because they're afraid of judgment. They don't want to seem too much, too needy, or too exposed. So instead of speaking up, they just hope you'll magically figure it out. That's why today we're talking about the 5 role positions men wish for, but rarely say out loud. And no, I'm not just talking about physical technique. I'm talking about the emotional positioning that makes it unforgettable. Because the truth is, it's not only about the act, it's about the energy behind it. When there's trust, playfulness, and confidence, that's when intimacy becomes addictive. There's something quietly powerful about moments where someone feels they can completely exhale, where their guard slips away, not because they're forced to let it down, but because they feel safe enough to. For many men, this is the silent craving beneath every intimate experience: permission. Not permission in the sense of consent, that's already essential and non-negotiable, but permission in the emotional sense. The kind that whispers, "You don't have to hold it all together right now. You can just be." As so many men spend their lives walking through the world with invisible armor. They're taught from a young age to be composed, strong, controlled, the one who leads, provides, protects. Even in moments of pleasure, this expectation lingers like a shadow. The need to appear confident, to perform well, to impress, to always be the man. That pressure doesn't suddenly disappear when the lights go out. It actually grows louder in silence, which is why those rare moments when they feel truly seen, accepted, and safe are unforgettable. They're not just experiencing physical pleasure, they're experiencing emotional permission to be real. This permission shows up in subtleties most people overlook. It's in the softness of your eyes, the warmth in your tone, the way you don't rush or judge. It's in the fact that you're present, not analyzing or performing a script. It's when your energy says, "I like you as you are. You don't have to prove anything right now." When a man senses this, something shifts inside him. His breath deepens. His movements slow down. His attention sharpens. What might have been a guarded, calculated moment starts to feel like a genuine connection. That's when trust is born, not because of words, but because of atmosphere. For a lot of men, intimacy isn't just about wanting to be touched. It's about wanting to feel free enough to let go of the need to be perfect. They want to feel like they can make a sound without being self-conscious. They want to relax their shoulders instead of holding tension. They want to stop wondering if they're doing it right, and instead feel like they can just exist in the moment. That's the kind of permission that turns a physical act into an emotional experience. It's what separates something forgettable from something unforgettable. This doesn't happen through grand gestures. It happens through little signals layered together. A steady gaze that doesn't judge. A soft laugh that lightens the room. A touch that isn't mechanical but alive, responding to their breath, their reactions, their energy. It's the absence of tension. It's the way you create a pocket of calm in a world where they're expected to always be on. In that pocket, they can stop performing. They can trust. And trust isn't something that can be faked. It's felt on a gut level. A man can tell when he's in a space where he's allowed to just be. He notices when your focus is on connection, not performance. He senses when your presence is genuine. It's why some moments linger in the memory long after they're over. It's not the specific move or act that stays with him. It's the feeling of being safe enough to surrender. When someone gives this kind of permission, it doesn't diminish desire. It amplifies it. It makes him want to lean in further, breathe a little deeper, open up in ways he doesn't with everyone. Because underneath every fantasy, there's always a human being who just wants to be fully accepted in their rawest form. Permission isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet, steady, unspoken. But it's everything. There's a moment that changes everything in intimacy. When a man realizes the woman with him isn't there out of obligation, but because she wants to be. That realization awakens something deep inside him, something that can't be faked or forced. It's the difference between compliance and desire. When a woman moves, speaks, or touches with the energy of genuine want, it ignites a current that words can't match. He feels chosen, desired, not just tolerated but craved. That's the position of power, not dominance, not control, but confidence wrapped in authenticity. So many people think power and intimacy comes from being in charge or taking the lead. But real power comes from energy, from knowing that your presence is wanted, that you have the ability to create chemistry, that your desire is equal to theirs. When a man feels that from you, he no longer feels like he's trying to impress or perform. He's pulled into your orbit because your energy says, "I'm not here to please you, I'm here to enjoy you." That shift changes everything. It creates a balance where both people feel desired, respected, and alive. When someone brings confidence into intimate space, it sets the tone. It tells the other person, you don't have to guess if this is okay. I'm here because I want this. That level of clarity removes hesitation and invites presence. Men are drawn to that certainty because it takes away the invisible wall of doubt that often exists when they're unsure how their partner feels. Most men have been conditioned to pursue, to chase, to convince. When they meet someone who meets them halfway, who makes them feel wanted without words, it's magnetic. It allows both to stop pretending and start connecting. Confidence is felt in subtle ways. It's not loud or aggressive. It's the calm in your movements, the playfulness in your eyes, the way you're unapologetically yourself. It's when you express desire not with words, but with presence. A confident glance can say more than any line ever could. A relaxed tone can say, I'm in control of my choice, and I choose this. That's a kind of confidence that doesn't just turn a man on, it disarms him. It gives him permission to stop trying to impress and start being real. The truth is, most men are more sensitive than they let on. They pick up on uncertainty, hesitation, or forced energy instantly. But when they sense genuine enthusiasm, when they feel that the woman with them is fully in the moment, their guard drops. They start to respond, not perform. That's when connection replaces performance and chemistry becomes something real instead of something rehearsed. Power in this sense isn't about control. It's about authenticity. It's about the strength that comes from knowing who you are and what you want, and not being afraid to let that truth be seen. There's also a quiet strength in claiming your pleasure without apology. When you lean into what feels good for you, you create an unspoken permission for your partner to do the same. It says, we're both here to enjoy this, not to meet expectations. That shared freedom builds trust. It turns intimacy into a playground instead of a performance. When you radiate that kind of energy, he stops thinking about whether he's doing it right. He starts focusing on you, responding to your cues, tuning into your rhythm. The most unforgettable experiences don't come from trying to impress someone. They come from that space where two people meet as equals, each bringing their full, unfiltered selves. When a man feels that your desire is real, that it's not about approval, not about validation, but pure confident choice, it's electrifying. It makes him want to rise to meet that energy, to give just as deeply as he's receiving. That's the position of power, not the ability to control another person, but the confidence to express what you truly want without fear. There's a unique kind of electricity that happens when someone lets go of the need to be in control. For many men, that moment is rare. So much of their daily life is spent carrying the weight of expectation, of being the one who leads, decides, drives, initiates. The world teaches them that they should always have a plan, always know what to do, always be the one setting the tone. But in intimacy, there's a secret longing that often goes unspoken, the desire to surrender, to not have to think, to trust someone else enough to simply follow where they lead. That quiet craving isn't about weakness, it's about release. When someone takes control with confidence and clarity, something deep inside him softens. It's not about domination. It's about allowing him to breathe without the pressure of being the one who's expected to keep the moment alive. This kind of control isn't loud or forced, it's calm, grounded, intentional. It says, you can trust me here. In that moment, he's not calculating what's next, not questioning if he's doing it right, not trying to steer the moment. He's present. Fully. Because someone else has taken the reins with a touch that's steady, not demanding. For many men, letting go is something they rarely experience. They might appear strong, confident, or even controlling on the surface, but underneath that is often a deep exhaustion from always needing to lead. When someone steps in with clear, sensual intention, it allows him to experience something he doesn't get often: the luxury of not having to think. He can feel instead of plan. He can follow instead of guide. That's why those moments linger long after they're over. They're not about power being taken, they're about pressure being lifted. Control in intimacy isn't just about movement. It's about energy. It's the way you guide him with subtle but certain signals. A hand on the chest that says, stay right here. A whisper that tells him what you want without leaving room for doubt. A rhythm you create that doesn't ask permission. It gives permission. That kind of control makes him feel safe enough to let go, and safe enough to trust that he's in capable hands. For someone who spends most of his life giving, the act of receiving can feel like a revelation. When someone leads with confidence, it also awakens a primal response. Men are often taught to chase, to take charge, but they're not always given space to be taken. When that happens, when control is gently but firmly claimed, it flips the script in the best possible way. It allows him to access a different part of himself, one that doesn't have to wear armor. There's an unspoken thrill in surrendering to someone who knows exactly what they're doing, not because they're overpowering, but because they're intentional. He's not losing power in that moment. He's experiencing trust on a deeper level. It's important to understand that surrender doesn't happen through force. It happens through trust. A man won't truly let go unless he feels safe, respected, wanted. So when that foundation is there and the other person steps in with certainty, it's intoxicating. His guard melts, his need to perform fades. His attention becomes razor sharp, focused on sensation instead of control. That kind of moment doesn't just build chemistry, it builds connection. This kind of surrender is often the difference between surface-level intimacy and something unforgettable. It's where the act becomes an experience, where his body isn't just reacting but responding, where his mind isn't working overtime but finally quiet. That quiet is rare for someone who's used to being responsible, to holding everything together. When he gets to surrender, even for a few minutes, it's not just pleasure. It's a kind of relief that runs deep. It's why those who can confidently take control without ego leave a lasting impression, because they give him something few ever do, the space to simply be. There's something almost primal about the way eye contact can completely change an intimate moment. It's one of those things people underestimate until it happens. Until two sets of eyes lock in that quiet, charged space and everything else fades. For a lot of men, this is the point where the physical experience becomes something deeper, where it stops being an act and starts feeling like a connection. Eye contact doesn't need words. It doesn't need explanations. It speaks a language of its own, one that says, I'm here with you. Not just near you. When someone maintains eye contact in intimacy, it strips away all the layers of performance. It brings two people into the same moment with full awareness of each other. It doesn't matter how many moves you've practiced, how confident you look, or how much noise fills the room. That single look is louder than anything else. It tells him that this isn't a routine. It isn't just another moment on repeat. It's real. It's now. And in that space, even the most guarded man starts to lower his walls. Because eye contact is more than visual. It's emotional permission to be seen. For many men, vulnerability isn't easy. They're conditioned to be strong, collected, always in control. Eye contact cuts through that like nothing else can. It doesn't ask them to talk about their feelings or explain themselves. It simply holds them there in the present without escape. And that kind of presence can feel both terrifying and intoxicating. Terrifying because it leaves them exposed. Intoxicating because, for once, someone is really looking, not just at their body but into the part of them that rarely gets touched, their essence. The magic of eye contact isn't just in intensity, it's in how it softens everything else. When two people share that look, even the smallest movements feel amplified. Breathing slows down. Every sound seems sharper. It's as if the rest of the world blurs and only the two of you exist in that space. For a man, that kind of gaze can make him feel chosen, desired, seen without pretense. It reassures him that this isn't something happening to him, it's something being shared with him. It makes the moment feel personal, not mechanical. Eye contact also builds trust in ways words can't. A glance can ask questions. A steady look can give answers. It's the invisible bridge between bodies that allows emotions to move freely. When someone holds that gaze, they're silently saying, I'm not afraid to see you. That's a kind of courage that invites him to let go of whatever mask he might still be wearing. Because if someone can look into his eyes without flinching, he knows he's in a safe space. Safe to feel, safe to express, safe to be. This doesn't mean eye contact has to be locked and intense every second. It's the rhythm of looking away and finding each other again that makes it powerful. A lingering glance, a soft smile, a playful flicker. They all carry their own kind of weight. It's that natural push and pull that builds anticipation. It's a way of saying everything without a single word. For men who are often expected to be strong and composed, this kind of silent communication is rare and unforgettable. What makes it even more potent is how personal it feels. Anyone can touch a body, but not everyone can touch someone's attention so completely. When a man is met with that kind of focus, it pulls him out of his head and into the moment. His insecurities fade because he's not just being looked at, he's being seen. That's what makes it linger long after it's over. Long after the physical sensations fade, he remembers that gaze, that feeling of being connected to someone, not just skin to skin, but soul to soul. Eye contact has the power to make time feel slower, to make the world fall away, to make a single moment feel infinite. There's a quiet kind of intimacy that doesn't come from touch or words, but from the unshakable feeling of being safe with someone. For many men, this feeling is rare, even in situations that appear close. Physical closeness doesn't always equal emotional safety, and often, the walls they build to appear strong never fully come down. They can be in someone's arms and still be miles away in their mind, guarded, careful, rehearsing what to do next. But when a moment carries that subtle message, you're safe here, everything changes. His breathing shifts. His body loosens. His mind finally stops trying to hold everything together. Safety doesn't announce itself loudly. It lives in small signals. It's in the way someone's touch lingers without rushing. It's in the softness of their voice, the way they pay attention to unspoken cues, the way they let the silence between breaths mean something. For a man who spends his days carrying expectations, being the one who provides strength, safety is a rare luxury. When it's offered, even without words, it allows him to drop the armor he's worn for years. That's not weakness. It's relief. Many men have learned to associate intimacy with performance, a quiet pressure to be enough, to do enough, to live up to a script they didn't write. In those spaces, they're rarely fully present because they're always a little on edge, wondering if they're meeting an invisible standard. But when safety is present, performance disappears. He no longer needs to control every second. He can exist as himself, imperfect, unpolished, unfiltered. And when someone still looks at him with softness in that state, it reaches a part of him that very few ever touch. Safety shows itself in gestures that seem simple but hold weight. A gentle touch on his shoulder that says, "You're allowed to relax." A warm breath against his neck that says, "You're not being judged." A soft smile that meets his gaze without expecting anything in return. It's these moments that tell him he doesn't have to pretend. It's okay to make a sound, to move without thinking, to stop performing and start feeling. When a man feels that kind of safety, he doesn't just give more of himself physically. He gives emotionally, even if he never says a word. This is why the most unforgettable moments aren't the ones with the most elaborate moves or perfect timing. They're the ones where trust is so strong that everything else falls away. When someone creates that emotional container, they give him permission to unravel a little. To let go of the tight grip he keeps on control. To surrender not because he has to, but because he wants to. That level of safety isn't about taking care of someone like a child. It's about holding space for the parts of them they never get to show. For many men, safety is intertwined with how they experience desire. It's hard to fully let go, to explore, to be playful or raw, if there's even a sliver of judgment in the air. But when the energy in the room says, "I see you and I'm not going anywhere," that fear dissolves. The man who usually stands tall, keeps his voice steady, and hides every flicker of uncertainty suddenly allows the cracks to show. And those cracks aren't flaws, they're realness. When someone gives him that kind of reassurance, it isn't just physical connection that deepens, trust does too. He starts to lean in instead of holding back. His movements become less calculated and more instinctive. He stops trying to earn the moment and starts living it. In a world that constantly asks him to be strong, these moments become a quiet kind of rebellion. A reminder that strength can also mean allowing yourself to be held, to be seen, to not have to be the unshakable one all the time. That's what safety does. It creates a space where a man can finally step out of the role he's been playing and just be. Where every touch doesn't need explanation. Where silence is not awkward but warm. Where trust doesn't need to be declared because it's already understood. In those moments, he doesn't just feel wanted, he feels safe enough to let all of him exist without restraint. Play has a way of bringing intimacy back to its raw, human core. When two people can be playful with each other, everything heavy starts to dissolve. The pressure to be perfect fades, the fear of doing it right disappears, and what's left is something real, something alive. For many men, this kind of playfulness is rare in intimate moments. They're often taught directly or indirectly that intimacy is about performance, about control, about getting it right. That mindset builds tension, and tension makes everything harder. But when the energy shifts to something playful, everything changes. Play is permission. It says, we don't have to impress each other here. It allows laughter to weave itself into something that's supposed to be serious. It lets awkward moments become endearing instead of uncomfortable. It gives space for teasing, for experimenting, for being messy without judgment. For men who are often expected to lead, to know exactly what they're doing, this kind of atmosphere feels like a deep exhale. It gives them the chance to stop trying so hard and actually enjoy what's happening. When someone brings play into intimacy, it lights the moment from within. A teasing smile, a little laugh, a playful whisper. These are small things, but they carry weight. They say, you don't need to be flawless. Just be here. That kind of energy creates a different kind of chemistry. One that isn't built on pressure but on curiosity. It's the difference between performing for someone and playing with someone. One drains the energy, the other feeds it. Play doesn't mean the moment loses its intensity. In fact, it often makes everything more intense because it strips away the stiffness. It makes the body move more naturally, makes breathing feel easier, makes connection flow without being forced. When a man feels like he can be playful, he stops holding back. He lets his real personality bleed into the moment. His laugh isn't muted. His reactions aren't edited. His desire becomes less about performance and more about presence. This kind of atmosphere also builds trust in a unique way. When you can be playful with someone, it shows you're not afraid to let them see the unpolished parts of you. It tells them, I trust you enough to be real with you. For men who are used to hiding behind control, this is powerful. It shows them that intimacy doesn't have to be heavy to be meaningful. It can be joyful, light, alive, and still incredibly deep. Playfulness also breaks down the idea of failure. When both people allow room for laughter and ease, there's no longer a fear of making a wrong move. There's no sense of, I have to get this right. Instead, there's a shared understanding that the moment itself matters more than perfection. And that understanding is freeing. It allows for exploration, for surprises, for genuine connection. When a man experiences that kind of ease, it does something to him. He no longer feels like he's performing for approval. He's participating in a shared rhythm that's organic and real. He starts giving more of himself without overthinking. He starts taking risks, trying new things, not out of pressure but out of curiosity. His guard comes down in ways it never could in a scripted, tense moment. What's beautiful about playfulness is that it doesn't demand anything. It doesn't say, be better. It says, be here. It brings two people back to the simple truth that desire isn't about a flawless sequence of moves, but about how alive you can feel with someone. When someone makes space for play, they make space for the most human parts of desire, the laughter, the teasing, the warmth, the unfiltered chemistry. For a man, that can be a kind of intimacy that stays with him long after the moment itself ends. Because more than technique, it's the feeling of joy and freedom that lingers. When everything is stripped down, beyond the teasing smiles, the soft whispers, the playful touches, what really matters isn't just technique or physicality. It's connection. Every position, every glance, every moment of surrender builds something far more meaningful than fleeting pleasure. It builds trust. It builds comfort. It creates a space where both people can stop performing and simply be. For many men, the most powerful experiences aren't the ones that look perfect from the outside. They're the ones that feel safe, alive, and real from the inside. It's the permission to let go, the confidence that says, I want this too, the surrender that melts away control, the eye contact that locks everything in the present, the quiet reassurance that they're safe, and the playful energy that makes everything unforgettable. That's the difference between moments that fade quickly and moments that stay in the body long after they've passed. Intimacy isn't about playing a role, it's about creating a space where two people meet without masks. When trust, desire, and ease exist together, the experience doesn't just satisfy, it imprints. That's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it real. Thank you for being here, for listening, for allowing space to explore something that's often felt but rarely spoken. These conversations matter because they open doors, not just to better physical connection, but to deeper emotional understanding. If you take anything with you, let it be this: the most unforgettable experiences don't come from what you do, but from how present, open, and real you allow yourself to be. Thank you for your time, your energy, and your openness. Until next time, stay confident, stay playful, and never underestimate the power of connection.